Hi, I'm Teresa Patterson, and this is my dog Buck. And today we're going to talk about some tips on how to introduce your dog to shed hunting. When you're teaching a dog to shed hunt, one of the things, we talked a little bit about obedience being number one. One of the things that you do want to work on is when you start with them, it's in a controlled environment without distractions and where they can have small successes. So what I did with Buck is I introduced him with a dummy shed antler because it's like a rubber antler, so it's soft, so you could toss it in the house. And then he would get used to retrieving the antler. I would use the word association as shed. So he would know when I toss the dummy and I say, get to shed. Here. And then we work with him retrieving it to me. So it's little steps like that. And then once they have the successes in there, because then they've learned this is what you want them to bring you the dummy, then you can move out to the outside where you can make it simple with a sight association and then eventually lead into scent association into more difficult cover. So the dogs get real excited. With him, his reward is the retrieve. So when he's happy that I'm happy, oh, and then he brings it to me, he knows he's going to get another retrieve. And so you just make it fun for them, and then they realize, hey, this antler thing, this is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And then they'll want to keep doing it. And that gets them used to bringing the antlers back to you. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah. Lots of praise and make it successful to them, and then want to keep doing it again. It's shed. It's shed. And word association is good, because then when you go out and you can say to them, find a shed, then they'll have an idea of what you're looking for. My dogs hunt waterfowl, upland birds, and of course when they see things from the sky, they know what you want them to retrieve. So when working them and teaching them to shed hunt, I try to associate the shed. So that way, every time I want them to find it, I'll say, find the shed. Buck's like, where do you want me to find the shed? So by doing that, it's going to associate when I take him out to the woods and I say, find the shed, he knows this is what we're looking for. Shed, fetch. Good boy. And working with a soft dummy like this actually helps them also learn to pick it up. And it doesn't hurt them because it's soft. And then they learn where to pick the antlers up. I would never suggest using a real antler with a puppy because they have soft teeth. If they get poked, it can make a negative experience. And when you're teaching them, you want them to have a positive experience. Yes, it's shed, fetch, good boy. Good boy. Okay, my dogs are labs, and obviously they love to retrieve. It's in their breeding. But if your dog doesn't like to retrieve, what I suggest is, maybe starting with their favorite toy. If you throw it and can coax them to come back to you, give them a small treat. That may, they'll realize, hey, if I bring this back to them, then they're going to give me a treat. Then you give them lots of praise. And then you can work up with an antler dummy or a small antler and toss it. And when they start bringing that back to you, you can work with them with a small treat. Once we start training inside and we get the controlled environment where they understand that you want them to retrieve this shed dummy, and they're retrieving it to you, they realize it's kind of fun, then I start working outside. So I came to my yard and I would toss the antler, and usually this is going to begin the sight association. So what we're probably going to do is remove Buck and just place the antler out there, and then you'll see when I come out, I'll tell him to find the antler, and then he will go and be able to just see it. So now he's starting to learn hey, when I see something like this, this is what she wants me to retrieve. And so you introduce the sight association before you do the scent association. And then what I'll do is just make it easy for him to find. So when you start with the sight association, you're just going to toss it anywhere in the yard, and then that way they can, when they see it, he'll know what it is, because I'll be telling him to find the shed. Find it. You see, he saw it. There's no scent to this antler, so he saw it. Good boy! Good boy! Yes! Okay, so once the dog gets the sight association down in the yard, and when they see that antler, they know that you want to go and pick it up, then you can actually get some scent and add to it, get a real antler to introduce them to, and then start hiding it into thicker cover, and then having them look for it by scent. You introduce the scent after the sight association is complete. Okay, so what we did is I did add just a little bit of a scent, and you can choose any type of scent. They'll sell them online if you want. I don't use a lot because antlers don't have a lot of scent other than like the waxy ring around it and the base. So I did just put a little bit of scent on it, and I'm going to throw it into thicker cover and have him come out now that the scent's been introduced to the antler. I have worked him on that previously so he knows the scent, and then I'm going to throw it into the bushes and then bring Buck out and have him find the antler.
Put it up. Find the shed. Good boy. Kennel. Kennel. Good boy. Sit. Good boy. I shall go up a way. I shall go. More like she said, treat driven. Same thing. Kennel. Kennel. Sit. Ah. Kennel. Out. Sit. Good boy. I got good boy. You know, you give him 1 or 2 little pieces. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy.
Now the Buck's been toned on his skills, we're headed out to try it on the real thing, see if we can find some antlers. Buck? Kennel. You ready to go? I'm not an expert trainer, but I know my dogs and I know how they learn and I know the basics. And really anybody can teach your dog to shed hunt. It just takes consistency with the training, a lot of patience, and knowing the basics. And the number one thing is always the obedience. You have to be able to control your dog at all times, in the house, in the yard. I always take his shed dummy. And the reason I do that is because, you know, not every time out we'll find an antler. And I want them to be successful every time out, because when they're successful, they learn. So the more positive experience, the more they're going to want to do it. So if we wouldn't find any sheds, then at least I can throw this to him, or, you know, place it somewhere so he can find it and he's thinking he's being successful. Okay, where we usually shed hunt with dogs is going to be the same place that you would shed hunt if you were going out to look for shed antlers. We look in the feeding areas, bedding areas, transition areas, pines, near creeks. Wherever you would normally look is where you would want to take your dog, except they're going to be able to cover a lot more ground in up your lawn. I trained Buck with a whistle, so when I want his attention, I can control him. He'll stop and look at me when I blow the whistle. Buck, fine. Find the shed. Hunt it up. A lot of times when you're working the dogs too, if at all possible in an area that you're going to hunt, you want to try and work the wind. Work the dog into the wind just like you would if you were hunting pheasants and things. If not, the dog will work himself into the wind, but with there being such little scent on the antlers, if you can, it helps, definitely helps. Okay, as you can see, some of the areas that we look are like near the creeks, the pines, the transition area where he just found that little shed. This is the first the snow's been off this field, so we're going to take a look in it. You may find something, you may not, but these are the type of areas you want to look. Where you would normally look, you take your dog, he can just cover more ground and get into areas you can't. What we'll do a lot of times when we go out, I'll just grid areas just like you would if you were on foot. I would go out and just do a section and look for that, and you know, that might be enough for buck that day. Then the next time out, we'll go and do another section. And we get lucky sometimes. So many trees. Oh, we get birds.
You find one?
I think you did. What'd you find? Fetch it up. Did you get one?
Huh.
Oh, come here. Oh, look how proud you are. Oh, come here. Oh, that's a one. Looky there. What a good boy. Sometimes I get asked a lot about what is the best kind of dog to use for shed hunting. And really the answer is any dog can shed hunt. I mean, obvious dogs are the Labrador Retrievers, your German Shorthair Pointers, your Beagles, you know, working dogs, because they do have that high prey and prey drive. But I know people who use German Shepherds and Australian Shepherds, and it's basically just knowing the basics, being able to have patience to show your dog and the consistency, and you can make that dog a shed dog. Just obedience again is number one, and then the retrieve, teaching them the sight association, then the scent association, and any dog can be a shed dog. The key to making a good shed dog is making it simple and doing consistent training, and then always making it a success. That's why there's lots of times we'll go out and hunt and put on miles for sheds and not find any, but I always take that shed dummy with me, because then Buck is always going to be able to find a shed. So he's always successful whenever we go out. As you can see, Buck had a great day today finding sheds. We hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for watching Wired Outdoors.